But every once in a while there's a guy, oh gosh, I miss Laramie. I mean, I really love it there. That's where I want to go. And they get this starry-eyed look, and I'm like, if that's where you want to live, do it. I mean, imagine if more gay people stayed in small towns. But it's easier said than done.
Well, it's preached in schools being gay, okay?
Local car mechanic Conrad Miller.
Well, if my kids ask me, I set it down and I say, well, this is what gay people do, this is what animals do, okay? And then tell them, this is the life, this is the lifestyle, this is what they do. And I'd say, this is why I believe it's wrong.
There's more gay people around than what you think.
Murdoch Cooper, a local rancher.
And it doesn't bother anybody because most of them that are gay, lesbian, they know damn well who they're talking to. If you step out of line, you're asking for it. Some people are saying you made it past them. You don't pick up regular people. I'm not excusing their actions, but it made me feel better to know that it was partially Matthew Shepard's fault and partially the guys who did it. You know, maybe it's 50-50.
Yes, as a lesbian, I was more concerned for my safety.
Zachy Salmon, an administrator at the University of Wyoming.
I think we all were. I think it's because we know that somewhere inside, it could happen to us any time. I mean, I would be afraid to walk down the street and display any sort of physical affection for my partner. You don't do that here and there.
And there's this whole idea, you leave me alone, I leave you alone. And it's even in some of the Western literature too, you know? Live and let live. That is such crap. I mean, I even tell that to my friends sometimes. My gay friends bring it up, and I'm like, that is crap, you know? I mean, basically what it boils down to, if I don't tell you I'm a fag, you won't beat the crap out of me. I mean, what's so great about that? That's a great philosophy.
John Peacock, Matthew's academic advisor.
Well, the news reports started trickling out on Thursday. No names were mentioned. Brutality of the crime was not mentioned. All that was mentioned was that there was a man, a Blair man, me, on the prairie, basically. Later on in the evening, he mentioned his name. I was like, that can't. That's not the Matthew Shepard I know. That's not my student. That's not this person who I've been meeting with.
I was in the coffee shop, and someone pulled me aside. They said, I don't know much, but they say there's been a young man who's been beaten in Laramie, and they say his name is Matthew Shepard. He said, do you think this could be our Matthew? And I said, well, yeah, it sounds like it could be our Matthew. So I called up my sister Trish, and I said, tell me what you know. I need to know anything you know, because I don't know anything.
So I'm talking to my sister on the phone, and that's when the whole story came up on Channel 5 News. And it was just like, boom.
And the news reports just kept rolling in. Young University of Wyoming student, his age, his description. It's like, oh my God.
And I felt sick to my stomach. It's just instantly sick to my stomach. And I had to tell Romaine, yes, it was Matthew. It was your friend.
Matthew Shepard medical update at 3 p.m. Saturday, October 10th.
Matthew Shepard was admitted in critical condition approximately 9:15 p.m. October 7th. On arrival, he was unresponsive and breathing support was being provided. His major injuries upon arrival consisted of hypothermia and a fracture from behind his head to just in front of his right ear, which could cause bleeding in the brain as well as pressure on the brain. There were also several lacerations on his head, face, and neck. Matthew's temperature has fluctuated over the past 24 hours, ranging from 98 to 106 degrees. We've had difficulty controlling his temperature. Matthew's parents arrived at 7 p.m. on October 9th and are now at his bedside. The following is a statement from them. First of all, we want to thank the American public for their kind thoughts for Matthew and their fond wishes for his speedy recovery. We appreciate your prayers and goodwill, and we know that there is something Matthew would appreciate too. We also have a special request for the members of the media. Matthew is very much in need of his family at this time, and we ask that you respect our privacy as well as Matthew's, so that we can concentrate all of our efforts, thoughts, and love on our son. Thank you very much.
Aaron Kreifel is a 19-year-old University of Wyoming student.
Well, I took off on my bicycle about 5 p.m. on Wednesday from my dorm. I just kind of felt like going for a ride. I I took my bike up to the top of Cactus Canyon, and I'm not super familiar with that area, so on my way back down, I was just sort of picking the way to go. Which now, it makes me think God wanted me to find him, because there was no way I was going to go that way. So I was in some deep-ass sand, and I wanted to turn around, but I kept going. And I was going down, and there was this rock on the ground, and I just drilled it, and I went over the handlebars. So I picked my bike up, and I was sort of dusting myself off and looking around, and that's when I see what turns out to be Matthew. And he just looked like a scarecrow tied to the bottom of that fence. And I didn't think much of it, because Halloween's coming up. I figured it was a Halloween gang. So I took my bike around the fence that was there, and that's when I noticed his hair. That was a major key to me realizing he was a human being, was his hair. Because, seriously, I just thought it was some sort of dummy. I even noticed his chest going up and down, and I just thought it was some sort of mechanism. But when I saw hair, I knew it was a human being. So I ran to the nearest bus. I ran as fast as I could, and I called the police.
I responded to the call.
Officer Reggie, please.
When I got there, first the only thing I could see was partially somebody's feet, and I got out of my vehicle and I raced over. I seen what appeared to be a young man, 14, 15 years old, because he was so tiny, just laying on his back and tied to the bottom end of the pole. I did the best I could. The young gentleman that was laying on the ground, Matthew Shepard, was covered in dry blood all over his head. There was blood underneath him, and he was barely breathing. He was doing the best he could. I was going to breathe for him, but I couldn't open his mouth. His mouth wouldn't open for him. He was covered in, like I said, partially dry blood, and blood all over his head. The only place where he did not have any blood on his face was where he appeared to be crying down his face. His head looked distorted, you know, it did not look normal. It looked as if he had a real harsh head.
I was working in the emergency room the night Matthew Shepard was brought in. I don't think that any of us can remember seeing a patient in that condition for a long time. Those of us who've worked in big city hospitals have seen this, but we have some people here who've not worked in big city hospitals. It's not something you expect. You expect it. You expect these kind of injuries from a car going down a hill at 80 miles an hour. And you expect to see gross injuries from something like that, this horrendous, terrible thing, but you don't expect to see this from somebody doing this to another person. The ambulance report said it was a beating, so we knew.
There was nothing I could do. There had been anything I could have done to help him. I would have done it. There was nothing. I was yelling at him, trying to get something out of him, like, hey, wake up, hello! But he didn't move. He didn't flinch, he didn't anything.
He was tied to the fence. His hands were thumbs out in what we call a cuffing position, the way we handcuff people. He was bound with a real thin white rope and went around the bottom of the pole, up about 4 inches from the ground. His shoes were missing. He was tied extremely tight, so I used my knife and I tried to slip it between the rope and his wrists. I had to be extremely careful not to harm Matthew any further.
Now, your first thought is, well, certainly you like to think that it's somebody from out of town that comes to beat somebody. I mean, things like this happen, you know, shit happens and it happens from there. But when there's been somebody who's been beaten repeatedly, it's certainly something that offends us. I think that's a good word, it offends us.
He was bound so tight. Finally got my knife over there. We rolled him over on his left side, and when we did that, he quit breathing. So immediately I put him back on his back, and that was just enough of an adjustment for me to kind of breathe. I seen the EMS unit trying to get to the location, and once the ambulance finally arrived, we placed his neck collar on him, put him on a backboard, and scooted him out from underneath the fence, and then Rob drove the ambulance over to Iverson Hospital's emergency room.
Now, the strange thing is, 20 minutes before Matthew came in, Aaron McKinney was brought in by his girlfriend. Now, I guess he got into a fight later on that night back in town, so I'm working on Aaron, and the ambulance comes in with Matthew. Now, at this point, I don't know that there's a connection at all. So I tell Aaron to wait, and I go and treat Matthew. So there's Aaron in one room at the ER, and Matthew in another room 2 doors now. Now, as soon as we saw Matthew, it was very obvious his care was beyond our capabilities. called the neurosurgeon at Rhode Valley. He was on the road in an hour and 15 minutes.
They showed me a picture. Days later, I saw a picture of Matthew. I would have never recognized him.
Then 2 days later, I found out the connection. I was very struck. There were two kids. They were both my patients, and they were two kids. I took care of both of them, of both of their bodies. And for a brief moment, I wondered if this is what God feels like when He looks down at us. How we are all His kids, our bodies, our souls, and I felt a great deal of compassion for both of them.